Hello and a warm welcome to Big Picture. I'm Neelu. While the government continues to convince the people and the opposition on its demonetisation move, there is a clear divide between the economists who are still in the process of tabulating the pros and cons, the short-term and the long-term impact on the economy. But the most telling statement has come out from the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who while addressing the party MPs on Tuesday said the Prime Minister has created a new normal of wide transactions with the demonetisation move and that this would lead to a jump in public spending in welfare activities. The question we are asking today is, what is this new normal which is being projected by the Modi government and what will be the indicators to judge the success of demonetisation drive? Joining me now on this subject, Siddharth Varadarajan, founding editor, The Wire, P. Vaidyanathan Iyer, National Affairs Editor, Indian Express, Professor N.R. Bhanumurthy, Member, National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, and Dr. Jagdish Shettigar, noted economist. Welcome all of you on this show of Big Picture. Before we begin today's discussion, let's exactly listen to what Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said yesterday while he addressed the party MPs when he spoke about the new normal. Take a listen.
क्राइम से काफी हद तक कटौती और मुक्ति, ब्लैक मनी कम करने का प्रयास, ईमानदारी जनजीवन में लाने का प्रयास, अर्थव्यवस्था का और जीडीपी का लॉन्ग टर्म में साइज बढ़े, क्योंकि ऑफिशियल इकोनॉमी बढ़ेगी, शैडो इकोनॉमी कम होगी। ये जब सारे लाभ इसमें से निकलेंगे तो देश को की एक बदली हुई तस्वीर उभर के सामने आएगी। और जब कभी देश का इतिहास लोग लिखेंगे आज से 20-30 साल पहले इस युग का, तो इस निर्णय को एक ऐतिहासिक कदम इस देश को स्वच्छ करना और इस देश की प्रगति करना उस दिशा को बढ़ाएंगे, जिसके लिए ऐसा निर्णय लेने की बहुत लोग चर्चा करते हैं, लेकिन इसको लागू करने की हिम्मत नहीं थी माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के।
This demonetization drive. I would like to begin with you, Professor Bhanumurthy. What is this new normal which Finance Minister has indicated at?
Yeah, the kind of the impact this demonetization policy is going to have on the macro economy is going to be very, very substantial.
Okay.
But in my view, I think the normal that Finance Minister is talking about should be new one. But at this moment, it's an unknown normal. We don't know whether it is going to be a positive side or the negative side in the short term. But I think in the medium term to long term, I would expect that the economy would be on a higher trajectory, provided if that reduces the cash transactions in the economy.
Okay.
So in that sense, it is definitely a new normal, but we really don't know what is that extent of normal that we are going to look at.
Okay. Dr. Shettigar, what according to you is this new normal which Finance Minister is indicating at?
I don't know what exactly he was indicating. Definitely he mentioned about the expansion in the economy.
Right.
In the long term, I also agree that it will have a positive impact on the economic growth, and definitely the rate of growth will increase. But when you say the new normals, which a Prime Minister had initiated through this revolutionary step, it should not be limited only to the economic growth.
Okay.
It should be even the political life and the economic transaction. So in that, I put, say, the way like your transaction, the real estate, where the large substantial part of the black money is used, whether you purchase or whether you sell. So how to control that? So that is one of the indicator. And if you purely look at the economy, so if you are moving towards the low interest rate regime as a result of rise in the money supply and because of the increased deposit, and that in terms results in the higher investment, both domestic as well as the foreign investment, because the corruption is one of the hurdles which is coming in the way of the foreign investment flowing in. If the foreign investors feel comfortable coming to the India, so that is another indicator of the margin. Apart from that, if the system gets cleaned up, especially in the political spectrum, whichever the political party that may be, and in the bureaucracy, if it is not just replacement of the currency notes.
Right.
On the many of the what you call the so-called the front people in the political spectrum,
Right.
if they get replaced because of this revolutionary step initiated by the Prime Minister, then I would say that that would be a new era which the Prime Minister is going to do.
Okay. If I could come to Siddharth, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley yesterday at length when he spoke, he also said that since last 70 years, we've been seeing that people have been, in the normal parlance, they have been saying that some portion of it in check and some portion of it in cash. That has been the jargon, the normal jargon of the people. Do you think that the jargon would change with this demonetization, and probably that is the new normal which FM is hinting at?
Absolutely not, because there is nothing at all in this initiative that is going to curb the process of generating black money. Black money is not a stock, right? And it's astonishing that the finance minister of this country doesn't understand that. Black money is a process, and it is generated by a whole range of activities that are not disclosed to the income tax authorities.
Right.
So either you strike at the root of this problem by having a more efficient tax system, by penalizing those who evade tax in one way or the other,
right.
Simply going after stock of cash that foolish corrupt people who have been unsuccessful in converting this cash into more durable assets like property or gold, which is what the majority of black economy people do.
Right.
To think that this is going to bring about a new normal, to use Mr. Jaitley's phrase, is simply to indulge in political rhetoric.
Okay.
This is going to have, in the short run, a negative impact, without any doubt, because you have gutted the cash segment of the economy, the informal economy of India. What long-term impact this has really depends on how quickly the government is able to get its act together and bring the necessary requisite cash back into circulation.
Right.
But to think that there is some long-term magic wand that has been waved, I mean, I want to understand what is the logic of a 2,000 rupee note that will make it even easier for property deals and all other kinds of
right.
transactions.
So you are saying,
instead of the
right.
government should have proper circle tax rates, the government should insist on curbing Benami property transactions, say by insisting on the use of Aadhaar number in a property sale.
Right.
None of these measures are being taken. Instead,
Siddharth,
very superficial, cosmetic kind of gimmickry
right.
is being indulged in.
But Siddharth, if you remember, Arun Jaitley also said that demonetization is just the first step, and there are many more steps to come. How would you get convinced on this? In fact, he especially mentioned that Benami.
I would say that he's put the cart before the horse, right? Because I would say the cart has been put before the horse, because there are lots of other steps or measures that ought to have been taken to strengthen the tax, the efficiency of the tax system.
Right.
None of those measures have been taken. Instead, you have something which is hitting the majority of people who are not. I mean, I know so many examples of people who have standing in a queue and they ran out of time.
Right.
Poor people with 5,000 to change are forced to sell it for 4,000 to a black marketeer.
Absolutely.
So
Everybody,
I'm saying this very process is generating its own parallel economy.
Certainly, because everybody who has been visiting a market or an ATM has a story to tell, and that story hasn't been very encouraging. Vaidyanathan, according to you, what is this definition of a new normal? Is it some kind of a macro change in economics, or is it some kind of a normal usage of jargon? How have you assessed the new normal definition of Finance Minister?
Yeah, two things. Look at the new normal, which the Finance Minister is talking about.
Right.
We are trying, what the Finance Minister talks and what I think the new normal is. The Finance Minister definitely talks about a new normal where all transactions become white.
Right.
Which to my mind, in real estate, I think it will be at least 2-3 years before people start really talking about, say, part payment in check and part payment in cash.
Okay, so you're saying it's a bit early to assess
No,
this.
I think this will happen immediately. I don't think real estate transactions, secondary sales have gone down dramatically.
Right.
I don't think the real estate was doing well for the last 2-3 years because secondary transactions were not happening in real estate. But now I think the cash and check component, I think that distinction will, to my mind, in the next 2-3 years, I don't see people actually dealing both in cash and check. I think it will be largely white check-based transactions.
Right.
But that is
that's
just one
what
part.
the government wants.
That's what the government wants, which is a fair thing. So for 2-3 years, I don't see any circulation into the real estate sector of black money.
Right.
Having said that, I think the new normal, if it means that we had a Hindu rate of growth of say 4%, now we are going to get at a 10%.
If I can interrupt, what is this Hindu rate of growth you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about a growth rate where we did not carry on reforms for a long time. We were a closed economy for a very long year till mid 80s. And we grew at a very small pace rate of growth, and then we, once we initiated kicked in reforms, we did start growing at a much substantial pace, because that induces a lot of competition within the domestic sectors also. If the new normal, which Mr. Jaitley talks about, is about a quantum jump in the growth rate,
right,
I don't think that is happening anytime
fact,
soon. I think that's something which is a misnomer to suggest that all ills of the economy have been taken care of and now we are in a new normal. That's a very illusory world to my mind, right?
Dr. Shettigar, I was in fact about to come to the quantum part of it. If it is quantifiable, how would you really assess, or how will you measure this new normal? Can you really measure this new normal?
No, we know the normal flow of foreign investment.
Right.
We know the normal growth rate. Say around now 7, and this year everybody was expecting that it is 7.6%.
But post demonetization?
No, it will not happen, because there will be slowdown in the economy.
Right.
Already the markets are not functioning. So definitely it will have the adverse effect. But if we cross to 10%, maybe beyond that, if we are have a double-digit growth, so that is the one, the indicator that we are moving to the new era and all.
Okay.
Now, apart from that, even like Siddharth pointed out that,
right,
see, whatever happened, it is a tackling or the attacking the existing black money. It is one of the measures, and some of the measures may be followed. But what you are doing to prevent the generation of the black money, why should people get discouraged when your system allows to the money going out of the country through the Hawala route, and again when your law allows the money coming in and the getting converted into white, like your exports, whichever the exporter is one of the channels where the money is going out, and through the foreign investment, the money coming in, and that gets converted into white through what we call the penny shares.
Right.
Why people invest, anybody who is interested in investing the shares, why should he consciously invest in the loss-making company's shares?
Right.
So it is basically to convert the black money into the white. So unless you are able to tackle this, that is the transaction in the exports and the imports, as well as the flow of the foreign investment and your stock market, though the SEBI has been trying.
Right.
In fact, the earlier also both RBI and the SEBI advised the then government to prevent the participatory note. Everybody agreed with, including the National Security Advisor at that time, Narayanan. He also pointed out that at the time substantial part of the money through this participatory note is going to fund the terrorists.
Right.
But even then the government did not agree, that only the government was against that. So unless and until you tackle this, that is the system facilitating the money going out, people will keep on generating.
Right. So does that mean, Professor Bhanumurthy?
Can I just
There
add to the
is
discussion?
political funding.
Just to add to the discussion, with due respect to Siddharth, I think nobody has said that this demonetization is the only magic wand the government has used to address the issue of unaccounted money in the system.
Right.
As I said in the previous episode, this is a process. This is not a one-off event. I think they have done, Jandan has been a big successful program. Then we have seen that GST has been passed. At least in the indirect taxes side, we are going to see the less
you would
leakages.
also link the voluntary disclosure scheme under which
that didn't succeed. That didn't succeed in my view. So we have GST, although we don't know what kind of shape it is going to take up. So, and even the Prime Minister doesn't say that demonetization is the only one-off event, to address this, black money issue. Let me add one more. If you look at in this 10 days time, banks could accumulate 5.5 lakh crore deposits.
Right.
Isn't it a success? Within the short period of time, they could mobilize 5.5 lakh crore deposits.
Right. I'll come to you. Siddharth, if you could just counter to what Professor Bhanumurthy has said, basically, and I would also like to throw some figures at you. According to the government records, some 8 lakh crore will be collected from the income tax this year, 8.5 lakh crore from the indirect taxes. And apart from that, annually, the government has been borrowing about 3 to 4 lakh crore. So Jaitley has been saying that probably this borrowing could be prevented. Do you also feel so, that the government will probably with demonetization and with a lot of deposits increasing?
You see, first of all,
Yes.
see, first of all, we shouldn't exaggerate the significance of money coming into the banks right now. Quite frankly, 6 lakh, 7 lakh at the end of the exercise, you'll have 11 or 12 lakh coming in for the simple reason that you have rendered those cash holdings illegal. Right?
Okay.
You've demonetized, so that money has to come into the banking system.
Right.
But once it comes into the banking system, A, are you prepared to issue the new money or not? They should have printed the entire stock of money that's coming in. The stock should have been ready from day one.
Right.
We're going to have to wait till the middle of next year. Secondly, to assume that money coming into the banks is going to automatically lead to greater credit offtake,
Right.
when you're going to be in a situation where you have shaved off 2 or 3% growth from the economy thanks to this demonetization effort.
Right.
So are companies going to be willing to borrow is a big question mark. So I think that there are lots of other measures that I'm not saying that you should not strike at some of these cash holdings. It should be
Right.
done.
Right.
But the way the government has launched into it without any preparation and quite frankly without any sound economic logic
Right.
is something which I think has created the kind of problems
But,
that we are seeing. It's a lot more homework should have been done.
A lot more homework should have been done. That's certainly there. But Finance Minister also has been saying that you should look at this drive also as largely a poverty alleviation exercise. What do you have to say to that? Because he's saying that with the deposits which have come in, larger spending will be made on the public welfare activities, on waiving off loans, the farmer loans. It would have some impact on rural economy.
It's a bit rich. I would say it's a bit rich coming from a government that has spent the last 2 years cutting back on social welfare spending. So if the government was so concerned
Right.
about the welfare of the poor, it has not been spending because it doesn't have the money. The fact is that if you look at health, look at education, look at the kind of allotments,
Right.
allocations that have been made for integrated child development, a whole number of schemes.
Right.
So it doesn't. I don't buy this logic at all.
Right.
Money will come in. The fiscal situation will ease.
Right.
But how will that money be deployed? If this is deployed for welfare, fine. But then you should have been doing this for the past 2 years as well.
Right. He does have a point, Siddharth does have a point in what he's saying. So what should the government really focus on now that the demonetization drive has already kicked off? What should be the focal pointers on which the government actually should be stressing now?
I think the way people have described say demonetization as a surgical attack on black
Right.
money or as a big bang reform. I don't think it's a surgical
not.
attack. No,
Okay.
surgical attacks are focused on one section which
Right.
is kind of playing out in the economy. If black money was something which was becoming troublesome, so you focus on black money. So this whole narrative of black money and corruption, to my mind, is kind of very political.
So
that
does
has got
it-
nothing to do with
so
economics.
does the government need to change the narrative? And if yes, how?
I don't think the government will change the narrative. I don't think the government wants to do it because it's a political move and not so much an economic move.
Okay.
Because what has happened post demonetization, lakhs and crores of people who are employing another lakhs and crores of people in the informal sector, in the unorganized sector, in the micro, tiny, small and medium enterprises
Right.
segment. They are the guys where cash was lubricating the businesses in those sectors. They are any break in the supply chain of these enterprises actually creates such havoc for them.
Right.
And 60 days of not being able to get cash, whether if I am a mechanic, do I go and stand in the queues for the whole day, or do I mind my business and exchange notes
Right.
with my customer to generate business? So that link, if that supply chain is broken, for many people, I think it is jobs rendered useless. No, there are no jobs.
Right.
People will lose jobs, and 50 days is too long a time.
Too long a period.
So I don't think they have prepared adequately for disbursing new money.
Government has been saying that, at least they have not said it very openly, but it has been a logistical nightmare for them, because with the way every day the guidelines which are coming up, they are changing. Today, Shaktikanta Das announced some 18th guideline today. So the government's approach has been more of a trial and error method. How do you think is it really going to impact the GDP, maybe in this quarter from October to March?
No, as I already pointed out, the GDP is likely to fall, especially at least in the next couple of quarters, because the very fact that the many markets have not been functioning since there is a cash crunch.
Right.
Cash crunch, definitely it will bring down the economic growth, maybe next couple of days. Now, with regard to the preparations for that, which Siddharth pointed out,
Right.
so I don't think that the government was not preparing. At least I think they are working since the last 6 months.
Okay.
But here problem is that like recalibration or the whatever the logistic problems
Right.
we have
Transportation has been one major problem.
It is, I think it is something to do with the confidentiality.
Okay.
Now, if they have been preparing or the calibrate, all the machines getting calibrated or this, then it wouldn't have remained a secret. Everybody would have come to know that the government wouldn't have been able to demonize, and definitely some people would have taken care of to convert their black money and all.
Right.
So, this is the main, and probably they could not anticipate some of the what I call the social issues. Like one is the timing, as somebody pointed out, this is a marriage season,
Right.
and also the farmers. The farmers are facing
Of course. So
problem.
the government has got the timing wrong.
No, that is mainly because probably if the Prime Minister had access to the inputs from the ground, which normally comes from the political leaders. But the here problem is that had he involved somebody else to get the political, I mean the inputs from the political leaders who have got the what he call can read the pulse of
Right.
the ground, so then he wouldn't have been able to keep it
my question
confidential. So it
now
is a
is-
vicious. So that is why he relied more on the bureaucrats.
Okay,
and
I'm
the-
really running out of time. Professor Bhanumurthy, can the people really feel confident? Maybe not now in the short term, but about a mid-term confidence. Can we really start talking about this?
Well, I think till now the reaction seems to be mixed.
Okay.
I mean, the kind of coverage that we see, there
Right.
seems to be a mixed reaction. But I want to just add to
very quickly, sir.
on the poverty issue that finance minister is talking about. I think this government needs to really understand who is the poor in this country.
Okay.
The Prime Minister's High Powered Committee on Poverty Estimates lifted their hands that they cannot estimate who is poor in this country.
Right.
So given that kind of situation, to talk that the demonetization is going to help remove the poverty, I think far-fetched.
Right.
On the social sector programs, I just want to tell to Siddharth, a lot of money is being allocated, and in fact if you look at major programs, there is a huge unspent balances in most of the programs.
Right.
So I think that is the role of the state governments. We cannot expect all the role to be given to the central government. State governments also need to pitch in and see
Share
that
the burden of the government.
Yes, I think
Right. Siddharth, your last thoughts. Do you see any positivity come 31st December? What probably according to you would be the biggest indicator to show that this drive has been successful?
Well, if there is enough cash to lubricate the economy the way that and avert the crisis that millions and millions of poor people are going through because
Right.
there's no cash.
Right.
So I think that the government, the confidentiality is all very well. They need not have changed the size of the note.
Okay.
So then calibrating an ATM would not have been an issue. I mean, I'm saying at every stage, the way in which this has been executed is so incompetent that you
Execution.
wonder about
Right.
the design of this entire process.
Right, absolutely. So while the nation still continues to discuss the pros and cons of the demonetization drive and also discuss the long-term and the short-term impact on the economy, the biggest challenge which the government is facing at the moment is probably the transitional challenges, which could be followed by some structural reforms. Well, till then, we can just say that it's a work in progress. Thanks to all my guests, Vaidyanathan, Iyer, Dr. Shettigar, Professor Bhanumurthy and Siddharth. So we'll have to leave it there. Thanks. Goodbye.